Hello, I'm Rowan Turrell, Partner and Head of Dispute Resolution at Boyes Turner. In early October, we held an event at the Caledonian Club in London called Embedding the in-house legal team at the heart of the business. We heard from speakers on a number of topics, with one of the panels being all about how legal teams can help drive the ESG change whilst managing risks. It was chaired by Nick Carter, a partner at Boyes Turner and head of the commercial property team. Taking part were Anna Stanley, head of ESG and in-house legal at Factotum, Francine Goodrick, the General Counsel and Company Secretary at Focusrite plc, and Michael Astle, Vice President Legal Affairs at Quotient Sciences. So Nick, let's have a chat first of all about why we decided to have a panel at today's conference on ESG in the first place.
So I think what we're finding from talking to in-house counsel across the country is that although it used to be a nice to have at one point to have ESG policies, etc., the growing regulatory structure as well as other drivers within businesses now mean that it's front and centre of many businesses to demonstrate that it is key in business. These pressures can come from investors, consumers and customers in particular, the supply chain diligence, which happens both ways, to and from the businesses that the in-house teams work for. And businesses don't really all have ESG strategies and initiatives yet. And quite often when there's change like that, they lean on the legal teams to give guidance. So it's become quite a hot topic that we wanted to explore.
So in terms of things that we discussed, Anna was one of our panellists and she works with a lot of B Corps. What did you learn today about the B Corps and sort of the certification, how that comes within the ESG sphere?
Yeah, it was really useful to have Anna with us on the panel today because we had conversations from two GCs talking about how ESG is governed in their businesses, but also Anna, as a B Corp leader, one of the leading certification organisations, to be able to tell us changes that are coming up, the background to the regulations, and the way that B Corp certification can help in-house lawyers to get it right and lead their businesses in terms of what they're doing. I mean, the certification, B Corp in particular, is probably the most well-known leading certification organisation. There are others. There are regulatory structures in Europe, the UK and America. She was helpfully telling us that some of the certification that has been going on is now linking them together, and there is more synergy to the certification across the world.
Now on to certifications, which is a subject much closer to my heart. You may approach certification as a company for a number of different reasons. Your direction of travel might depend on whether you want to demonstrate leadership in the area, use a defined framework to develop your impact, or simply comply with obligations being imposed on you externally or by clients or suppliers. B Corp certification is the one that obviously I've got most significantly involved in. It is a well-known, generally well-respected, none of them are perfect, externally verified certification, and it has global reach. It covers a broad range of areas across a whole company, and a number of my clients look at it as using a magnifying glass to assess their company across a number of different areas, which is useful and beneficial, not just in terms of reporting on ESG, but taking a different approach to analysing the success of your company and where changes and improvements in your impact can be made. But like I say, it isn't perfect. It's come in for some criticism as a result of its growing number of companies that have become B Corps, and it is now looking. They've always revised their standards every 3 years, and the current revision is much more comprehensive. So the intention is to keep the standards at a high level and to be able to identify what good really looks like in terms of overall impact, And that process has taken quite a long time, but it is a very thorough one, and I still believe it's a great way, a great process to go through in terms of identifying your company's impact across lots of different areas.
So we spoke to Francine, who's the General Counsel at Focusrite, and one of the things that she mentioned was an area that you're particularly fond of, Nick, which was their property move and how that had impacted their ESG profile.
Yes, absolutely. We had two panellists, Francine from a music tech organisation and Michael from a science background, very different. And she was saying by simply moving offices, they were able to reduce their carbon footprint by a significant amount.
Our lease came to an end, so we were in a fortunate position that we had to find somewhere new to go. And where previously we had a carbon footprint of 80 metric tonnes a year, we now have a carbon footprint of 10 metric tonnes a year, just by simply having moved buildings. So that's got everyone really fired up on one and well, how can we reduce that even further? Solar panels on the roof, we want to have bees in our nature reserve. And there's a lot of talk about grey water being used at the moment to flow through the building. So that was single-handedly overnight our greatest drive forward in the E of ESG.
So one of the things that came out of the discussion, Nick, was what the different drivers are and how they vary from business to business. Francine explained some of those.
Yeah, she was explaining that in the music tech industry, it is a very young industry with a lot of younger professionals there, and the drivers behind a more focused strategy and initiatives around ESG was very much coming from not only their customers directly from supply chain diligence, but also from their own employees. And she has worked very hard to create engagement within the business, not only at a senior level, but all the way through.
We also have a largely young customer base who were saying to us, we really care about the environment. What's your carbon footprint? How much destruction are you creating when you manufacture an interface? And so we talked about it a lot internally, but weren't doing much. And as the force behind the legislation got going, we appointed a full-time head of sustainability, and he started looking at what our carbon footprint was, what we should be doing and where we should be doing it. And so I've been really lucky. There's a lot of take-up internally about it, and there are people coming to us with ideas about what they can do. Investors have actually been late to the party on this one, and I mean, even now, they ask some cursory questions, but they don't drill into it. And I think it's probably because they actually fear that you could turn it around and say, well, what are you doing about it?
So, Nick, last of all, we had Michael Astle. Obviously, our theme for today was embedding the legal team at the heart of the business, and that was one of the areas that he focused on in the comments that he made about how he had pushed the legal team forward in this sphere.
Yeah, absolutely. And many legal teams can get bogged down in the regulatory side of it, creating guidance and strategies, etc. But Michael, and it was backed up by Francine, they're very much interested in actually getting engagement across a business, selling the benefits of promoting ESG and having meaningful strategies, communication with colleagues to sell those benefits, and it can go to the heart of a business by putting it in marketing materials and sales pitches. So it was interesting to hear that side of it, and that they're trying to get away just from ESG. They're actually trying to work with all parts of the business, sustainability, employees, people in different areas, rather than just legal and the board.
We've done well on the governance, which you might hope is a core strength for a legal team. We've struggled a bit with engagement on environment and social. So we've been trying to work out ways to get our business to help us a little bit more, get some more momentum behind our ESG programme. And what I've come to realise is the more we communicate to our colleagues, the more they respond and the more they give back to us. So it's about having frequent communication, talking to them often in many different forums, making requests of them for help, be it with projects or with data collection. And then slowly over the last few years, we started to get a groundswell of reaction from our colleagues. I had the fortune to go to some colleagues' leaving drinks on Friday. 25 colleagues I've worked with for all the time I've been at Quotient. As much as I love legal, they didn't talk to me about the law. They spoke to me about ESG. Every single one of them who had a conversation with me wanted to talk about ESG. And those that had left the business or were leaving the business were talking about how they didn't just want another job. They wanted a job with purpose, with values that would enable them to feel good about what they do. So a few of these strands kind of coming together really made me think we need to do more with our colleagues, get them involved a lot more. And that's the path we're starting to take at Quotient, which is starting to pay dividends.
And that was Michael Astle that we heard there. So Nick, thank you very much for chairing the panel today.
Thank you very much. It was a pleasure.
Thanks for listening. If you're interested in checking out more episodes from the Boys Turner team, then please do go to our website. You can also follow or subscribe wherever you listen to your podcasts. Goodbye.